The jaw pain started earlier in the week. It was starting to radiate into my chest to the point where I was on my hands and knees in bed, unable to focus on anything but the pain. By Friday morning, I was flat on my back and strapped to an EKG machine in the emergency room, next to an old lady who kept saying every 10 seconds, "My tummy hurts! My tummy hurts!" I hope these aren't the last words I ever hear. As usual, the emergency room was doing a brisk business. There was a high school girl that had a fractured pelvis as a result of a car wreck. She was getting a lot of visitors. Her friend was a couple of beds away. Alcohol may have been a factor. They moved me to bed number 8. It was real good to be out of the hallway. The guy in bed number 9 was talking to the nurse. He had an infection. "I'm sorry, darling. At first I thought it was a blister. I'm self-employed and I don't have any insurance, so I treated myself until the pain got too bad. I don't mind losing the toe, but I don't want to lose my foot. I have to stand on my feet all day." Turns out he had his own dog grooming business. I didn't see that one coming. I saw him walk in with his buddy. I had him pegged for a plumber's helper or maybe an oil change guy. You just never know. There's a 94-year-old woman 2 beds over taking a fall. Then there was the reasonably attractive red-faced young woman I almost walked in on, being escorted out of the bathroom by the sheriff's deputy, who was carrying a urine sample. Well, I mean, as pretty as you can be when you're handcuffed at the waist with a leg chain, shortly after peeing in the cup. I'm sure even she would agree this wasn't her best look. The doctor came in with the results of my EKG. And he said, "We're troubled by the changes in your EKG. We're going to keep you in the hospital. We're just looking for a bed." Well, if I wasn't having chest pains before, I am now. And then after that, there was a series of visits from technicians, several members of the cardiac team, someone from the respiratory unit, a nutritionist, and a random sampling of people with no discernible purpose. The left side of my heart is only pumping 45% of the blood it's supposed to. What followed over the next 7 hours was a regular series of questions, blood tests, and EKGs. Are you having chest pains now? Are you experiencing shortness of breath? Are you having any swelling? Do you have any tingling in your arm? When did the pain start? Where did the pain start? What were you doing when the pain started? Can you describe the pain? Does your jaw hurt? Can you describe the pain? Between 1 and 10, how bad is the pain? Are you having any swelling? Do you suffer from acid reflux? Do you smoke? Do you drink alcohol? Do you use any illegal drugs? I hadn't eaten all day because they weren't sure what they were going to do. So by 5 o'clock, they brought me some food. It was easily one of the top 5 meals I've ever eaten in my entire life. For the record, it was meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. I make a mental note to add this to the list of possible last meal options. I still have pain in my chest, but I'm not having chest pains. When they decided to move me upstairs, I asked the nurse if they put you in a wheelchair or they pushed you into bed. She asked me if I had a preference. I thought a wheelchair would be more dignified. Dignity is a fickle mistress. Now, the last time I was personally in an emergency room as opposed to just visiting, I ended up in it after a night of drinking. The last thing I remember that night was sitting in a bar next to a guy. And he turned to me and he said, "This place is dead." I said, "Yeah, you're right. Follow me." Next thing I know, I woke up naked on a middle table with a sheet over me. First thing I did was look for a toe tag. Second thing I looked for was my pants. So they're throwing words around like sinus rhythm, abnormal T, left atrial enlargement, possible ischemia widespread, V-rate blockage, stent, arteries, heart disease, family history, and stress test. Now, after a routine visit to I'm going to back up a little bit. After a routine visit to Las Vegas to visit my parents, I had my first stress test in UKG. Just after a routine visit, they went to check. And my ex-brother-in-law, who's a surgeon, not a heart surgeon, said after opening my EKG results that it appeared I'd had a heart attack. Wait, can you have a heart attack and not know it? Sure, he said. At least he waited till after dessert. So anyway, I have a treadmill stress test the next day, which was conducted by a middle-aged German woman. I thought this will be a breeze. I only have to do it for about 10 or 15 minutes. So I start out strong. Maybe a little too strong. Pace yourself, I think. I don't need to lead the pack. I just need to finish. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. So I ease up a little. I decided to focus on my breathing. So I focus on my breathing. Then I focus on the mountains outside the window. Then I start to focus on the cars in the parking lot. Then I start to focus on lunch. Winners never quit, quitters never win. I will reach the mountaintop! Okay, now I'm starting to feel the burn. Okay, it starts on my side now. It's reached my eyes. I am now completely drenched in sweat and I can no longer see. My knees are weak, my chest hurts, and I can't breathe. And I may have already lost control of my bowels. Don't give up now, you're almost there, I tell myself. Is someone making toast? Dear Lord, if you let me finish this test, I will be a more patient and loving man. Oh God, don't let me vomit on the window. If I now increase the speed a little bit, says a voice from the not too distant past. I'm now being thrown to and fro like a marionette. Centrifugal force and gravity are the only things keeping me attached to the treadmill at this point. I am now singing in German. I quickly switched to Spanish. No mas! No mas! Helga stops the treadmill, helps me off, and sighs audibly. The total elapsed time of my stress test was less than 5 minutes. I lasted less time than my 78-year-old father who had just had a bypass. The doctor said to me later, in a voice more resigned than judgmental, "You're not in good shape." Would have hurt less if he punched me. I promised I would eat right, stop smoking. So anyway, they finally moved me upstairs. And it's a double room with one bed, so life is starting to get better. And the nurse up there gives me the rundown. If you have any valuables, give them to your wife. Things tend to grow legs around here overnight, so I give my wife my wallet and keep my phone in my pocket. Guess we'll also find out if things also grow hands. And she also says you won't be able to eat or drink anything after midnight, so you need to eat something now. So my wife brings me back a chicken sandwich, a banana, and a cookie. So I have a big mouthful of food when a nurse comes in the room, wearing a sign that says Echo, pushing a big machine. And she says, "Is it Chris or Christopher?" Now I've got a mouthful of food and I'm gesturing, trying to convey the universal sign for I heard and understood everything you said, but my mouth is completely full at the moment, and I'm going to be right with you. she takes the beat and looks at my wife and says, "Oh, is he deaf?" Now I'm chewing furiously and gesturing frantically, trying to get her attention. "I'm not deaf!" I try to sign. And she just waved the beat and said, "That's cool. I've seen worse." So I was sent away from home when I was a child. Let's back it up a little here. I had been displaying increasingly bad behavior in school. I was refusing to do any schoolwork, and I wasn't going to let anybody else do it. Bunch of fucking deadbeats, you know? So the teacher tried moving my desk up front next to her to hopefully keep a better eye on me and exert some control. Yeah, it didn't work. So I ended up spending most of my time in the hallway or the principal's office. I was sent to Green Chimney School in Brewster, New York. I had been referred there by a psychiatrist I began seeing after threatening to commit suicide at the school. I got really depressed after seeing a story in the paper about a couple of astronauts that had died while flying into a building. It was Elliot C. and Charlie Bassett. They had died while trying to land in bad weather, and they crashed into the building where their Gemini 9 spacecraft was being assembled. Bassett's head was later found wedged in the rafters. And I had seen the story on the front page of the paper my father was reading that morning. And I had show and tell that day. So I used that story. I think one kid did card tricks and another one played the trumpet. It was actually a bad couple of years for astronauts. Between the years 1966 and 67, 7 NASA astronauts died. 4 in training flight mishaps, and 3 in a launch pad fire. 5 of the schools in my hometown at that time were named after astronauts, including Gus Grissom, who died in the launch pad fire. I went to Allen B. Shepard Elementary, which was named after the first American in space and the 5th man to walk on the moon, where he hit 2 golf balls. And I don't know what all these numbers add up to except this one fucked up kid.